first of all, I thought we'd talk a little bit about your early years. What your childhood was like in Martinsville, and
well, first,
a bit about that.
Okay. But my early years were at Centerton, where I went to grade school, and through my first year in high school.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what was that like? Is that where you first...
Oh, are you shooting now?
Yes, I am.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah.
Yes, we're rolling now. And so what was that like? Is that where you first got interested in basketball?
Yes, I grew up at Centerton, about 8 miles north of Martinsville, and we lived on a farm there, and Dad tacked up not a peach basket, but an old tomato basket, and Mother took an old cotton sock and filled it with rags, make it as round as possibly could, and that's where I first started. I went to grade school there at Centerton, and my first year in high school commuted on the interurban that ran from Indianapolis to Martinsville, and then we lost the farm after my freshman year, and we moved into Martinsville, and I was in there the rest of the time, but I met the young lady, the only girl with whom I ever went with, her my sophomore year in high school, and later on, after I graduated from college, we were married as soon as I got a job, and we had 53 wonderful years together before I lost her. But at Martinsville, of course, basketball was the big thing, with a gym that seated more than the population of the town, and Glenn Curtis was my coach, an outstanding coach, and my sophomore year we lost the championship game in the state tournament to Marion with Stretch Murphy, who was the best player in the country in my opinion, and I had the great fortune of going to Purdue, and my sophomore year at Purdue, he was a senior there, and I got to play with him, and he helped me get off to a good start in basketball. My junior year in high school, we won the state championship. We beat Muncie Central in the championship game. And my senior year, we lost the championship game to the same team we'd beaten for the championship the year before. We were leading 12-11. So this is all the center jump. And they called a timeout, and they didn't have any. So we got a technical foul, but it went back to the center jump after that. I shot the technical foul, and I missed it. And I was a good free throw shooter and hardly ever missed one. I missed it and went back center jump, and Secrease, their big center, and I'll never forget this. He tipped it to himself, which you could do then, and he turned around, tipped it back over his shoulder, turned to the left, made a complete circle, underhand sweep. I mean, he must have thrown the ball as high as I've ever seen, and it came right down through the middle of the net. And I've heard people say, oh, we were there, the ball was in the air when the gun went off. Well, it wasn't true at all, because we called a timeout, and we got a very easy shot, and our player twisted it a little bit, and it hung around the rim, and it came out and didn't go in, and then it was over. But it's amazing how many people have told me they saw that game, and I know there are a lot of people there, but they didn't see that from what they said. But those were great days, and you know what, Martinsville was one of the best-known cities as far as basketball was concerned at that time. Now, when I go back there, and the Grassy Fork Goldfish Hatcheries, which was one of the first and largest in the world, and the Bucket Factory, and I still have some things there, and they're not there anymore, and the Poston's Brick Plant, it isn't there anymore, and well, other things. It's not the same, even though I guess the populations maybe tripled what it was then, but now I guess most of them commute to Indianapolis or somewhere. Actually, in my 3 years at Purdue University, I worked at the State Highway Annex in Indianapolis, and I commuted from Martinsville to Indianapolis every day in the summers, for working for the State Highway Department in the offices in the State Annex. And wonderful memories there. Nellie and I were married in Indianapolis on August the 8th, 1932, and we were married in a small church, and my brother and his girlfriend, who had a car, drove us up, and then they left. And we went to, we ate at the Bamboo Inn, which was on the Circle at that time, and after that we went to a movie right next door, and saw the Mills Brothers make their very first appearance in Indianapolis. I got to know them after we came out here. I used to tell them, I said, I heard you make your first appearance in Indianapolis. It was the day that we had been married. Nellie and I had been married just a few hours before then, and I thought you were going to sing all night. Nellie and I were tired, and we wanted to get to bed, and you just kept singing and singing and singing, and they kept on calling, and I'm trying to get them shut up. I wanted to get to bed. So we've had a good laugh out of that, but I have so many wonderful memories. And then after graduating from Purdue, I played semi-pro ball for the Kautsky Club in Indianapolis. Frank Kautsky is grocers, a wonderful person, and so many wonderful memories. Most of the young men, Sally Sudduth, with whom I played, and Marshall Tackett, and George Eubank, and Bob Lockhart. Well, we all went to different colleges, and Bob Lockhart went to Northwestern, Tackett went to Butler, Sudduth went to both Purdue and started, and then shifted to Indiana University, and Vinny Basessi and Jude Ellis and Russ Franklin and Floyd Burns. Oh, a lot of wonderful memories from Martinsville.
Okay, let me just pause one. Talk about while you were growing up, your people that influenced you, got you involved in basketball, and also academically, who influenced you?
But I think the person probably had most influence on me throughout were my mother and father, in particular my father. He had certain things. He said, "There's always time for play. That's after the chores and the studies are done, of course." And he read to us every night. We didn't have electricity or running water or anything on the farm, and he would read poetry and scriptures to us every night. And Dad, many things that later, when a number of years later, after I graduated from Purdue and entered the teaching profession, I wanted to come up with a different definition of success than Mr. Webster. I wanted to be more than just the material possessions or prestige. And I wanted to come up with my own definition. And my dad, I remembered, he tried to teach us that never try to be better than somebody else, because you don't have any control of others. Learn from others, because you'll never know a thing you don't learn from someone else in another way. And the thing over which you have control is never cease trying to do the best you can do at whatever it is. And I'd more or less forgotten that. Probably it went in one ear and out the other in the time. And then somehow, I guess in the hidden recess of the mind, it held on a little bit, because later I thought about it when I was trying to coin my own definition. And then I read a short verse that said, "At God's footstool to confess, a poor soul knelt and bowed his head. I failed," he cried. "The Master said, thou didst thy best. That is success." I recalled that, and then I recalled a discussion of success that we'd had in high school under Mr. Scheidler, who taught algebra, and later went from there to Muncie, and he had two sons, twins that played basketball, very fine basketball players there. And from those, I coined my own definition of success in 1934. I choose to define it as peace of mind attained only through self-satisfaction in knowing you made the effort to do the best of which you're capable. And you're the only one that knows that, you know. Nobody else knows. You can fool others, but you can't fool yourself. And it's like character and reputation. Your character, you're the only one that knows your character. Your reputation is what you're perceived to be by others, but your character is what you really are. And I think that helped me later in my teaching, developing my own philosophy in teaching of always just trying to do your best. And I think it enabled me, and I think I was able to get this across reasonably well to youngsters under my supervision, that you never lose a game or anything else if you know you made the effort to prepare yourself and do the best you can, and you're the only one that will know that. I didn't believe in highs and lows. I wanted to stay away from the mountains and the valleys. And there are going to be ups and downs in one's life, and learn to accept them. And I believe maybe from Dad I learned that. And then I had a principal in grade school that was, I learned a lot from him too. And he was also the basketball coach and gave me and the other players a good whipping one time because we wouldn't sing in the morning sessions that we had. And we pretended we were singing. We weren't getting by with it, but he gave us a good whipping before the whole school. That was very embarrassing. But we were dear friends, and he was a dear friend to me throughout his life. And then, of course, having Glenn Curtis as my high school basketball coach, I think was a very outstanding coach. And I look back and the things that he taught. And then I've been fortunate in so many ways. I've really been blessed in so many ways. And then going to Purdue and had the privilege of playing under Ward Pickett Lambert, who he's the best. There's just no better. A man of extremely high principles. And I think my basic coaching philosophy came more from him. The heart of my pyramid, I have three things: condition, skill, and team spirit. And I think that came from Mr. Lambert as much as anybody else. He wanted us to be in the best possible condition. He wanted us to be able to not only properly, quickly execute the fundamentals, and if you didn't play together as a team, you were going to go to the bench in a hurry. And I tried to use those in my teaching philosophy throughout. So there are many people that I learned from. And I'd say most of them at the time, I didn't realize the time what I'm learning from them, but it comes later. It's like some of my basketball players at UCLA, Louis Alcindor, now known as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Just recently, someone asked him, what do you think Coach Wooden's Pyramid of Success? And he said, when I first heard it, I thought it was one of the corniest things I'd ever heard. Before I got out of school, I saw it was kind of meaningful, but I never realized how much until a number of years after I was out and on my own. And that pleases me. It pleases me that others feel. Well, I don't think it's any joy to find out that something you've said or done has been meaningful to another when you didn't do it with thinking of anything in return. If we're just always thinking what we're going to get out of it, that's not so good.
Did you have or do you have siblings, and did they have any influence on you?
Oh, yes. I have three brothers. I had two sisters. I never really got to know them. They died early. Cordelia died when she was 3 with diphtheria, and the other one was infancy. I had an older brother, Maurice, known as Cat. He went to Martinsville. He was on the 1924 championship team. He went on to Franklin College. At Franklin College, he was a fine student. Fortunately, all my brothers were outstanding students, and he played football, basketball, and baseball, all three at Franklin College. He played under Grizz Wagner, the great coach who coached the Franklin Wonder Five that won 3 consecutive championships, and then they went right into Franklin College. And my brother under me, Daniel, between me and my youngest brother, Daniel didn't go to college for a while, but later on, when I was at Indiana State University after the end of World War II, where I went after I was discharged, my older brother, Maurice, or Cat, was at New Mexico State Teachers College in Alamogordo, New Mexico, and the two of us got Danny to pack up and go there. And I was at Indiana State, and he and his wife, Phyllis, and their only child, they had Judy. It was a baby, just a baby then. They came through Terre Haute on their way to New Mexico. I never thought the car would get across Wabash River, let alone get to Mexico. But they got there. He, my brother, older brother, got him a job in the coop and got Phyllis a job as a stenographer. Since he graduated from there, took a position in Alamogordo, New Mexico, and remained there as a teacher until he passed away. My youngest brother, Billy, he's the only one that stayed in Indiana. He went to Purdue, and when he graduated from Purdue, he took a position at LaPorte High School in northern Indiana, stayed there, raised his 7 children, all who graduated from either Ball State or Indiana State. And I lost Billy just a few years ago when I was back in Indianapolis for the Wooden Tradition, and I'd gone over to see him, and he passed away. And I'm holding his hand. It was really hard, and he squeezed. I wasn't supposed to be there. I went over on Thanksgiving morning. I wasn't going to go till Saturday morning, and the minister and the doctor were there, and I said, "Well, I'm really glad I got here today anyway," because he didn't know, because he squeezed my hand. He couldn't talk or anything, but they said, "Oh, he would have waited." He'd have waited until Saturday because he knew you were going to come. And so that's my 3 brothers.
Let's get back to you and your first getting interested in basketball. You talked about your parents putting up the basket and starting then, but what is it that drove you to really, at that early age, to have an interest in basketball?
I think that just being born in Indiana in those years, and any young fellow is going to be interested in basketball, and it's just the natural thing. And we had a grade school team, then we played other teams, Hazelwood, Monrovia, and some of the others. Not very many games. We played in our overalls, just to have some sort of short type of shirt put down over the top of overalls. Maybe they didn't even have basketball shoes, played outdoors, and sometimes we'd shovel snow off the court so we could play. But Mr. Lambert, not Mr. Lambert, excuse me, my principal was also the coach and a wonderful, wonderful person. And I think that created more of an interest, and we actually played the junior, was it the junior high team from Martinsville down there. We got to play in the gym one time, and that was really great going down there. And when I graduated from grade school, it was just natural that I was going to go to Martinsville. I could have gone to Mooresville. We were about the same distance, and the state provided your transportation either way. And I know that sometimes I couldn't do anything my freshman year because I had to get back, and they only one interurban ran, but I missed it a few times and had to walk the 8 miles up to Centerton, but I'd done that. And, I can still remember that, walking across the trestle. I took the railroad track. When going across White River, I was wondering of a train coming along. I'd hurry across there. But then, of course, in Martinsville, they just won the state championship, I think the year before I went in 1924. And I'd heard about Martinsville's basketball, and I'd seen some of the high school games, not many, but when my brother was there 3 years before. And it was just natural that I was interested in it.
Did you have a natural talent for basketball from the beginning, or is it something that you really had to work at to get good at?
Well, anything I think you have to work at it, but you have to have some natural talent to begin with. But you have to work at to bring it forth. I think the Lord gave me quickness, and that was my biggest asset I had. And other things that the Lord didn't give you just have to work on. And but I think finding out that I was reasonably successful because of my quickness throughout my coaching career. I'm recruiting in college. I'm recruiting for quickness, where many coaches will give up some quickness to get more size. I'd give up some size to get more quickness. Now, we both wanted the same thing. We both wanted big and quick. But I would think most of my those who followed my teams would say that we were always quick. And I know I was always hoping that I could have 3 players on the floor. I'd like to have all 5, but that maybe is asking too much. I'd hoped that 3 of my players are going to be quicker than 3 of our opponents. I felt that was a little advantage, where the other fellow might be thinking, if I can have 3 of my players bigger than 3 of the others, that's an advantage. So you look at it both ways. But I did look for quickness with as much size as possible. And then, of course, they had to be a team player, and the bench was my best ally. If they don't play as a team, they can sit on the bench and watch the others who wanted to play as a team. Like one fellow, he just wanted to shoot all the time one time, and so after practice, I just said, well, we're all going home now. Here's a ball. You just stay in here and get it out of your system.
Now, you mentioned that before you went to college, you were in World War II?
Yes, correct.
Did you enlist, or were you drafted?
I enlisted, and probably the major disagreement that my dear wife and I had in all our years was that she didn't think I should have. I had 2 children, and she didn't think I would be drafted because I was a teacher and whatnot. But I did. But I was fortunate in all the things that was in the service too. But I'd prefer not to go into those.
Were you rusty with your basketball after serving, or did you have any chance to practice basketball while you were serving? or did you really have to work to get your skills back up when you came back?
I mean, I'd been out of college for 10 years before
Okay, I
the service.
misunderstood. So you went into the service after college.
That's correct.
Okay, I misunderstood.
I went in the
Okay.
service in 1942, and I graduated
Okay.
from college in 1932.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's back up then. And was Purdue the only university you considered going to?
No, at that time I wanted to become a civil engineer, and that's the main reason I went to Purdue. My first year I was in civil engineering. I did not know at that time, counseling in high schools in my day wasn't the best in the world, I guess, and we had wonderful teachers, I'm sure, but one of the things I didn't know and hadn't read up enough, it was probably in the catalog, that you had to go to civil camp every summer to get your degree in civil engineering. I didn't know that until the end of my freshman year, near the close of the freshman year. They came around, I had some choice of where I could go for civil camp, and I can't go. There were no athletic scholarships, and my parents had no financial means to help. I had to work in the summers to help. And so I just changed to a liberal arts coach major in English. I knew that's what I was going to do. And it's kind of odd. I worked in the State House Annex in the highway department those summers, and I honestly feel that I probably learned as much in there that would have helped me in civil engineering as if I'd gone to civil camp. But that didn't count. So I just changed, and I never regret. I never regret. I knew from that time I was going to be a teacher, and my favorite American, Abraham Lincoln, said that things work out best for those who make the best of the way things work out.
So, did I understand you correctly to say that at that time there were no athletic scholarships?
No athletic scholarships at all. No.
So you're going to Purdue had nothing to do with its basketball program at the time?
Well, I liked their style of basketball. I knew that too. But I would have gone to Indiana. I liked Indiana too, and it was closer. I'd been closer to Nellie. He's only 17 miles from my high school sweetheart, I probably would have gone there. I liked their basketball too. But my main reason was going because of at that time I'd hoped to become a civil engineer. But I did like their basketball program, and certainly. Mr. Lambert, I had tremendous respect, but no, you didn't know too much about the style. I didn't see a lot of it. And they weren't recruiting all over the country like they are, although Fog Allen in Kansas tried to get me to come there. Talked to me after we'd won the championship after my junior year. And when I had hitchhiked to Kansas and worked through the wheat harvest and stopped in Lawrence, and that's where I met the coach at Kansas, tried to get me to stay in the last year, finish high school there and go.
So, did they recruit you at all? Did Coach Lambert recruit you, or did you just walk on, for a tryout and get on the team that way?
Different ones. Warren Snyder, when I went there, he was a captain of the basketball team. He was also on the 1924 championship high school team in Indiana. He wanted me to come there. And Prune Thomas, also from Martinsville, he was there. And there were others, and they'd talk to me about coming there. And Mr. Lambert had talked to me about it. But, I mean, I hadn't visited the campus in a recruiting way like they do today or anything like that. No, I would prefer Indiana University at the time. If they'd had engineering, I'd have gone there immediately. Or had I known what I found out at Purdue, I would have gone to Indiana.
So it sounds like it was a lucky set of circumstances that got you to Purdue and graduating from Purdue.
Oh yes, of course, and I never regret it. I've had some good breaks. Lord's blessed me in many ways.
Can you describe for us a little bit of what Purdue